Welcome back to Secret Pocketbook. My name is Emily and I'm on the events team at the Ann Arbor District Library. If you want to learn how to get started on this project, I will link to the previous videos in this series in the description below. So far in this series, we have made 6 different folded paper forms. We made a pamphlet, an accordion, a Turkish map fold, a triangle fold, a slit book, and a puzzle fold. So we've really exercised our cutting and measuring and folding and sewing muscles. And now we're going to bring it all together into our secret pocketbook. And so I'm going to show you how to take a 14-inch by 17-inch sheet of drawing paper, and you can use a heavier paper if you would like, and make it into a book of this size, and also make a cover for it out of a decorative paper of your choice. For this project, you're going to need a surface to cut on, a ruler with a metal edge, a utility or craft knife, or a paper knife if you have one. You'll need a pencil for marking measurements, a bone folder or something to help you fold, and for finishing our concertina, you could use string or yarn. I tried out some linen thread and I used beeswax with that, and I used a needle to sew with, as well as an awl for punching holes through the paper, and a pair of scissors. You may choose to finish your project with something like decorative washi tape or just glue. For this project, we're going to be cutting down a lot of sheets of paper to size, so I want to show you how I do it. First, I turn it onto its non-decorative side if it has one, and then with either my ruler or using my cutting mat as a guide, I make marks where I know I'm going to want to cut my paper. I usually make these marks with a mechanical pencil near the edges of the paper. I like using mechanical pencils because they leave a more accurate mark that can be erased away. This pencil here actually looks like a regular old wooden pencil, but it is a secret mechanical pencil. Once I've made my marks, then I grab my T-square and I brace it up against the edge of my table or my cutting mat, and I use it to make sure that I'm making nice straight lines along my paper so that the corner of my paper is in square, and then I draw a long pencil mark along it. Once I've made my marks on my paper, then I take my utility knife, you could also use a craft knife here, and I use my ruler with my metal edge, and I make cuts where I need to, using those pencil lines as a guide. And I cut towards myself, which probably isn't the safest thing in the world, so you're probably smarter than me and you will know to cut away from yourself, but that's how I do it. And that's really all there is to it. To start your concertina with pockets, take your piece of paper and fold it half. And then open it up and turn it on its side and fold it the other way. So using that central crease now, we're going to take the short edge of the paper and fold it to line up with that crease. And then turn the paper around and do the same thing on the other side. So now if we look at our paper lengthwise, we see that we've got 3 horizontal creases running across it. And so across each of these creases, we're going to make a pencil mark 2 inches from the edge of the paper. And this is just to help us when we're scoring a line across the paper for folding, just to make sure we've got everything lined up. So once I've got all 3 of those pencil marks, I'm going to lay a ruler across them, making sure that it lines up straight. And then I'm going to grab my bone folder or something that I can score the paper with. And with the pointy tip of it, I'm just going to score that paper a couple of times so that it will fold easily. And then I'm going to turn the paper over and just do the same thing on the other side, making those pencil marks at 2 inches and then scoring the paper for folding. So now that I'm ready to fold, I just kind of gently just fold it over and just kind of just press it down a little bit until the paper wants to fold under the weight of my hand. So now I've got the 2 long edges of my paper folded in, so these will become the pockets of my concertina. So the last thing I have to do, so the paper is now divided into 4 folded sections across, you can see. And so I'm going to cut along that central crease along 3 of those folded sections. So again, I use my ruler just to make sure that I'm lining up with that crease. Now, if you have a paper knife, you can make that same cut just by folding the paper over and just very carefully slitting it along that creased edge and just only cutting 3 of those sections down the paper. So now you can see my paper, I've got it so that 3 or 4 of those sections have been cut and there's 1 left. So then I fold it backwards. Now I'm going to accordion it by opening up that paper and folding it one way, and then folding it back along those fold lines in the opposite direction, and then folding again in the opposite direction. And there you have it. I just crease everything, make sure that it's lying as flat as it can. This will not lie super flat, and if you use paper heavier than drawing or text weight paper, it will also just want to stay open on its own, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So when I look at my concertina with pockets now, you can see that some of the pockets are open on one side and that there is a gap in the middle that we can choose to close up or not. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you might want to go through and finish your concertina by closing up the gaps or creating a secret pocket in the middle. This concertina is a blank canvas, and you can decorate it on the front as well as on the back. You can write on it, you can do all kinds of things. So for my book cover, I'm going to start by finding the halfway mark along the short edge of my paper. And the real quick and easy way to do that is just to pinch, not fold all the way down, but I'm just going to pinch it in half. And you see I've just made this little tiny crease. I haven't actually folded the whole paper in half yet. So that will just give me a really nice accurate mark of where the center of the paper is. So now I'm going to take the long edge of the paper and I'm going to line it up with those pinch marks, just making sure that I've got everything nice and straight, and then crease it down with my bone folder. And then I'm going to turn my paper over and do the same thing on the other side. Now I have to measure the width of the spine. So I'm going to fill up my finished pocketbook with all of my projects and keepsakes that I want in it, and just holding it very loosely so I'm not squeezing it tight or letting it open all the way. I'm just going to hold it up to each of the short edges of this cover, and I'm just going to mark the width of that book. And it's kind of hard to see those marks on this paper because it is patterned paper, but these marks will be hidden in the end. You don't have to worry about them being visible. So I'm going to take one edge and I'm going to fold over so it lines up with that mark that I just made. Then I'm going to turn my cover around and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, making sure that I find my pencil mark and line up my paper nice and square. So I'm creating two fold marks in the center of this cover, and you may have to work with it a little bit because now we're getting into multiple folds, so the paper can be a little more difficult to work with, but just make sure you get all of your creases nice and neat. So you can see now that we have made a spine. We have made a fold in the paper that is the width of our finished pocketbook. So we could have also just measured it and done it that way and just marked the center, but this is just a very easy way to make sure that the spine of your cover is the width of your pocketbook. So now we're going to do something similar with the flaps that are overhanging. So I just want to make sure that my concertina is where it's going to end up inside the cover, right up against that spine fold. And then I'm just going to crease along the fore edge of it with my bone folder to make it easier to fold over. And again, just kind of gently folding along that crease line at first, just until it naturally wants to bend, and then grabbing my bone folder and creasing it down firmly. And then I turn it around and do it on the other side. So again, putting my book up against the spine, making sure that I'm accurately placing it where it will be in the finished cover, and then scoring along the fore edge and then creasing that down. So now my cover is finished, and all I have to do is put my concertina inside it. So for the pockets on the ends, if they're not empty, I might want to take any larger items out of there. Smaller, thinner items will fit in these pockets while they are in the cover, but larger items might have trouble fitting. So I just take the end page of my concertina and I'm just going to stick it inside the pocket made by the cover. And you may have already done this. You might have used to do this with your school books. It's a very common method. And I just go and do that on the other side. And there it is. My concertina is finished and covered. Now, because of these loose edges that I pointed out before on your concertina, as well as the gap in the middle, there are a few ways that you can secure your book. So if you have your book inside of a cover, you don't need to secure the edges of the end pockets because they'll be stuck inside the cover. One way that I tried to do this was sewing. So I did an experiment both with some very thin wool yarn as well as with some linen thread, and I sewed the places that I wanted to be secured. And while it worked for securing the book, it didn't come out the way that I wanted it to look. Another really easy method is just to use some washi tape to secure those ends, but washi tape isn't super durable, so it may come undone. You may just want to experiment with using a glue stick. And then finally, we can take all of the projects that we learned in the course of this video. So our accordion, our pamphlet, our Turkish map fold, our triangle fold, our puzzle fold, and our slip book, and we can just fill the pockets of the concertina with them. You can also put in any photos or notes, anything that is special to you that you would like to keep in this book.